Wesley Dodds, The Sandman, issue 5, Robert Venditti writing with Riley Rosmo on art. This was you that read this still, so go for
Yes.
it.
So this is the penultimate issue, and it moves the pieces into, well, where we're going to leave Wesley Dodds at the end of this. And in the last issue, he had the evil version of Sandman. He got into a fight in this penthouse, where his dad's friend Vanderlyle, his mentor, was, and he knocked him out of the window. And this guy ended up breaking his fall on a car, and he's dead. So it picks up with the police covering up this body, basically saying there's nothing to see here. And the police talking to Dodds about what was happening. And he tells them that it's a private matter. And he has, his girlfriend is the district attorney's daughter, and that, talked to her. She was here too. And it leads him going to Fort Hamilton, which is on Brooklyn, to go talk to the commander in charge, that is the one that's responsible for his tech getting into the wrong hands. So he ends up sneaking on, and he's hitting people with the gas, but because he's been the victim of the gas before, he's a little bit more judicious now because he knows what it's like, and he doesn't want to put people through it, unless they have it coming. So he ends up sneaking in and gassing all of these soldiers, except he's not hitting them with the full dose like it's been, because again, he knows what it feels like. But he also needs to do this because he starts seeing visions of what the gases that don't knock people out, the bad stuff that was in his journal, what they would do to people in war. So there, he comes across this one guy who kind of looks like Jerry from Parks and Rec. He's this kind of older, overweight guy, and he sees the Sandman and he freezes. And Wesley has the gas gun pointed at him, and the guy has his eyes closed tight. And this is probably the best Rosmo art I've seen in a while, because just the way that it flows. But Wesley hesitates, and the guy opens his one eye, and Wesley puts his gun down, and he runs and hits the alarm, which sends all of these other soldiers in, who start putting on gas masks, right? Because they're aware of what he does. This goes into a action sequence where Wesley's breaking through, and great. It feels so weird to praise Rosmo's art here, but I feel like this pulpy kind of stuff is what he's meant to draw, because it looks like a load of chaos with these panels at odd angles, but you can follow the action on the page really well. That Wesley starts going through and taking their masks off and hitting them with all the gas. So the guy that he's there after, Colonel Breckenridge, is trying to make an escape, but he has his gun drawn. He only has one arm, so he's at a disadvantage, of course. And Wesley comes in and basically tells him, "I know what you were doing." He gets him out of that room, and takes him to an abandoned building. And there's a lot of Batman imagery in this. There's these bats all over this warehouse, just kind of hanging out, which I find is weird because we're decades away from Batman, or kind of even the Waynes. But the Colonel tells him that you don't want to know why I did all of this. And essentially it says that the next war that's coming, the war that's being fought right now in Europe, we're going to need to be able to do these things. And that, and it gets really dark here, that there's no such thing as a war crime for a winner, right? Because who decides what a war crime is? It's politician and diplomat. Victory is unimpeachable. War crimes are for the defeated. And West is like, well, I got to find this journal. This cannot end up in the bad hands, in the wrong hands, because this man's a maniac. And he talks about how he was able to get the guy that, whose body they found, Igor Klug. He was a soldier, but he got thrown out of the military for thievery. And so he knew that he was going to be the perfect patsy. And so it just shows that this colonel feels that these lives are all expendable, which for a pacifist like Wesley is what drives his belief system. And so he's just letting the colonel talk, and he goes behind him, and he's like, look, you can call the police, but I'm a decorated soldier. Nothing's gonna, get me in trouble. And he goes, they're not gonna believe a word that you say. And he goes, well, they're not gonna listen to me, Colonel. They're gonna listen to you. And you see that Wesley had planted a primitive recording device that's recording things to a vinyl of the last, 5 minutes of the colonel talking, basically describing his crimes. He essentially got monologued, in the classic fashion. And he leaves that for the police to find. And then Wesley realizes who has the journal, because the colonel has told him that he left it with Vanderlyle. And the butler, I think it's Higgins, is there trying to clean up Vanderlyle's house from, the fight that had happened there. And as he's looking under, for all these broken glass or whatever, he looks under a chair and finds Wesley's journal. And he gets hit with a candlestick. Oh, his name is Humphreys, not Higgins. And that essentially it's Vanderlyle that's been behind this the entire time. So it leads right into the final chapter. I'm sure, Wesley and him will have at odds, and it'll end with, Sandman being the guy that we know, because it's almost not necessarily his origin, but an early story of kind of how Wesley Dodds became the Sandman. Rosmo art, really good. Like, I'm surprised, because we bag on him so often, but I feel like this and the Shadow Book are two of the best, for him. So, story kind of can pick where it's going, but that's Venditti. He kind of knows how to tell these pulpy stories. So I will give this a 7.5.